Season 1 was where healing began. Season 2 is where we build. This is Love, Heal, Hustle, where we don't just talk about pain, we turn it into power. Where faith meets discipline, where purpose meets strategy, and where healed hustle becomes legacy. If you're ready to just stop going through life and start leading it, you're in the right place. Let's get into it. Welcome back to Love, Heal, Hustle. I'm your host, Ysaura. Today, we're opening up with a powerful conversation with money coach and entrepreneur, Grace Kim. Welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you so much for
Grace.
having me. It's an honor. First time experience.
Yeah. How do you feel?
Oh,
You're a little nervous?
I feel like this is an amazing platform.
Yeah.
I prayed on the way here that this will empower and inspire and just, I guess, even hit a nerve with people out there.
I love that, and I'm sure that it will. Grace, before we even talk about money strategies and all that fun stuff, I want to start with something much deeper. When we talk about healing your money story, what exactly does that mean to you?
So specifically for me, I would say it's the talking about the pain of my upbringing. Our upbringing is such a huge part of our identity.
And our adulthood.
Exactly.
Right,
and
yeah.
I think that for me growing up with a lot of, let's just say, a lot of vacancies financially, a lot of lack of resources. My parents immigrated here at a slightly older time in their lives, and they came with no plan.
From where?
From South Korea.
Okay.
And they didn't really have a way of really raising us in the standards that they
Like
wished
a
to.
guide and-
Exactly. And we grew up very much without. We had to rely on assistance, and there was just so much shame around that. And so when I talk about healing my money story, I'm talking about healing from that pain and kind of the embarrassment of that growing up and what I did to change that story for myself moving forward.
I love that.
Exactly.
I love that. So I'd love to take it a little bit back to what exactly was your money story growing up? So I know that your parents came from Korea. So when your parents migrated into this country, you guys didn't have family here.
Exactly. And the irony is my personal family history is that my parents are the only two people in their respective families, and they are actually about 6, 7 siblings each. They're the only ones that immigrated to the United States. So I am the first and only American born in my entire generation.
No siblings.
I did, but unfortunately he passed away. So I am
so
literally
sorry.
the only one.
Wow.
Yeah. And it dawned on me several years ago. I didn't even realize that until I thought about it. And I said, oh, I am definitely the unique one.
You're the first gen.
Exactly.
First graduate.
Exactly. And I don't take that lightly once I realized it.
Yeah. And Aracelis knew what she was doing, by the way.
Yes.
Shout out to Aracelis. She knew what she was doing when she put the two of us together.
100%.
I think that she saw something in us. And when we met, it just clicked. I'm like, I see why she felt like we would be the perfect fit.
Yeah.
Because I also resonate a lot with your story.
Mm-hmm.
I'm also a first gen. My parents come from like absolutely zero. And so my parents come to this country very hardworking. And I had no guidance. My parents couldn't guide me because we're in this new country. And how can they guide me when themselves, they're new to this country? So I felt that responsibility. I felt like I needed to figure it out. And so I made sure that I did all the right things, which is going to school. And granted, I didn't graduate high school, but I did get my GED and I did go to college and I got my bachelor's. And that was a proud moment for my mother and my father because that was something that, they couldn't accomplish back in their country. And I was able to accomplish that here. And
that was probably healing to them too.
Exactly. How do the experiences we have growing up shape the way that we handle money today?
100%. I think I see that a lot. And there's a certain degree of cultural element, different values and different thought process when it comes to money, wealth, and our future. And I come from a culture where there's a lot of economic progress in my sort of society that I'm part of. But I was always very outside of that because my parents, just a lot of Koreans during that time frame where they immigrated in the 80s, 90s, they set up small businesses. They did pretty well for themselves. And I saw how they were able to elevate and get out of the Bronx, which is where which I grew up. And all of that mobilization, I did not get to experience within my own family. And once again, that really, it was just this constant sort of dread or disappointment that I could not come out of this. So I pursued education just like yourself, did the whole bachelor's route, only to find out that wasn't the total answer for me to really come out of this economic sort of trap that I felt like I was in. So personally, again, speaking to the theme of hustle, right? I really pursued entrepreneurship and business ownership as my ticket out of this past life that I was in. Because I realized after going to college and doing all that, I actually applied myself a lot in college.
Yeah.
And yet none of that really spelled out to anything specific as far as standing out of the crowd and differentiating yourself. So I decided to travel the road less traveled to create a whole different outcome for myself.
And what was that road?
That road was actually learn how to get financial licenses, which was actually totally not within my realm, actually. This was totally different. I actually ended up at a liberal arts college. And the funny story is, I actually didn't even know what that meant when I was applying for college. So I find myself
like it was just
there.
Like a general thing.
Yeah.
Like when you don't know exactly what you want to choose, you go for a liberal
Exactly.
arts.
I think back in our early 20s and certainly within our teenage years, we just go with the flow.
And I've always said, like, that it's such a young age for you to figure out what you want to do for the rest of your life.
Exactly.
You know?
I ended up at a liberal arts college and studied psychology and French. I don't even know how those two go together. I wasn't thinking. It was just, I have to finish this, is what I said to myself.
Yes.
And I graduated, did pretty well, but no plan, no economic plan, no financial plan. And it was of paramount importance to me to learn how to make money above average. You get what I mean? It wasn't okay for me to accept an average future because I actually became head of household at a young age. Like literally the day after I graduated college, I realized that my family's well-being is up to me.
You felt like it was your responsibility.
Exactly. It was up to me, just what you said.
It's exactly how I felt. I felt like it was my responsibility. I saw something and I felt like I needed to make a change.
Yeah. If it's meant to be, it's up to me. That's really how I felt about the situation. But it was actually 2007 when I graduated. Very soon thereafter was the economic collapse. And I didn't lose my job or anything like that at that time. But it was not a lot of growth in the position that I was in at that time. And very soon afterwards, I decided to take upon myself an opportunity that allowed me to obtain financial services licenses. And thus began my entrepreneurial journey. I did not plan for it. I actually started the very same day I heard about it. And 16 years later, I'm sitting here as a business owner. For many years now, it's actually been I will say, over 13 years that I've been working for myself, building my agency. And what I fall in love with every day is that the language of financial freedom is not spoken daily in our general society. So it's the language that I want to bring into as many conversations as possible, because I know that if there's anyone that's going to really speak about it from the bottom up, not in a way that's so up there that people are like, whoa, I'm excluded from that discussion. I want to help people learn from scratch, just like I had to.
That is so powerful, Grace.
Thank you.
And I feel like that's something that we need more of and it goes back to, we're not taught this in institutions, right? So we're taught this from who? Either from our parents. And if our parents are not taught that, then where do we learn this from?
Exactly.
And then it goes back to that question, like, till this day, we know that is something that is crucial in life and adulthood to understand finances. But why is it still not being taught in institutions?
I will also say this, you're right. It's very much absent in our educational system. So I went to a pretty reputable high school, not a single word about personal finance.
Yeah.
And college, again, completely void. I also, however, believe that it's about how proximal are we to letting those principles apply. So if we're in high school and we don't have bills, we don't have responsibilities, it's only so much that we're going to be able to apply. You know what I mean? I had my stepdaughters actually went to a high school down in Virginia where I overheard them during the COVID era, them doing their virtual school. And they were learning a little bit about personal finance. But in the back of my mind, I said, oh, wow, this is good material. I'll give them that. But it doesn't apply in this context. It
might not stick.
Right.
So
right.
I guess that's a good argument that it might not stick because it doesn't apply to their current life experiences.
I think the critical transition point is, okay, let's say someone does graduate from college, call that age 22.
Right.
From 22 to like 25 is such a critical time. You've been there, right? We all remember our early to mid 20s. Yeah. We're walking around fairly clueless.
Oh, yes.
We're eager, but we're not informed.
Yeah.
I just happened to find my current company at the age of 24. I know that we're going to be speaking about some financial principles today. And I'm very grateful that I started this journey. And when I say journey, I mean twofold. I'm talking about my actual financial journey.
Yeah.
Because anyone can do very well in their occupation, profession, or business. But if they're not taking care of their finances, no matter how much you make or how much revenue you make if you're a business owner, your money is just not going to take care of itself. You get what I mean? So we have to have a structural game plan. Not to sound like such a hard butt, but we need to have a structural game plan that you set into motion and almost on autopilot, your money is working for you.
Rather than you working for it, which is what
forever,
we mostly do, right?
Yes.
That rat race that my parents would be in. And it's like, always worked so hard. You work so hard, but why are you not seeing? Yeah. Why are you not seeing the money? Like, why are you not seeing?
We call that revolving door effect. It's just money in, money out system. And after so many years of doing that, all that hard work and toil, but not enough to show for it. You get what I mean? So I'm really big on that. Really big on not thinking you have to have a certain circumstance to make your money work for you, but to make the money start at whatever circumstance.
So no matter how much you're making.
Exactly.
Right.
So that you can once you have that structure, you can always upgrade as your income starts flowing better, et cetera. But when you don't start, you're not conscious of what's there for you.
You're not creating that consistency in behavior, financial choices, right?
Precisely.
Yeah. So what are the basic financial concepts that every adult should understand?
Yeah, of course. I believe this is something I talk about all the time, that I think as children, we are taught about saving. I remember going to Citibank down on Broadway where I used to live and opening up a bank account. I must have been maybe 7 or something like that. I still remember. And you feel quite accomplished. So you feel, wow, bank account or something like this, right? But so everyone basically knows how to save $1, but not necessarily how to invest $1. You get what I'm saying? So
good.
One of the principles that we really want to inform people about better is what is investing. And of course, I can't speak on that totally today, but it's something that allows you to have your money make more money, simply put. And it's extremely important to do that, because then you have the opportunity for experiencing compounding effect of money.
And what is that? Because some of our viewers might not know what
absolutely. It's the whole mechanism of money making more money, and therefore over time, it starts to snowball in your favor. So when it snowballs, then it starts to multiply. And it's very important that we set that snowball in motion. That's what I've been speaking about this whole last 5 minutes, about just starting somewhere so that it has an opportunity to start rolling down that hill, so to speak, and start accumulating and amassing.
I see. Why is starting early so important?
There's a lot to that, but starting early. So this is how I look at it. Let me talk in a very practical sense, right? I am, and maybe it's because I hit a certain milestone this past year. So I'll be celebrating my first anniversary coming up soon. I can't believe it's almost been a whole year.
Congratulations.
Thank you. It's once you get to this age, you're like, dang, there's only so much life that we have. There's only so many decades that we get to experience.
And milestones.
Exactly, right?
Yeah.
And necessarily, I'm not going to say that it applies to me, but I think most people would say to some degree they regret some of the time they lost in their 20s.
Absolutely.
Or as my husband likes to say, sometimes the youth is wasted on the young. Because a lot of times when we're in our 20s, we have the most, and the world is our oyster, right?
Yeah.
We have so many ways to design our futures. We can go one way, the other way. We also have just endless possibilities.
Yeah.
But how many of us have the right type of guidance and mentorship and information in general to know how to, again, apply it to ourselves and let that become a foundation? In our 20s, I really believe it's all about laying down the bricks of that foundation.
Yeah.
And let's just be honest, not a lot of people end up doing that. And
especially like us, we don't have that guidance.
So that's why I was saying earlier that between that young, early 20s to mid 20s, such a critical time. So if anyone's listening and they have young adult children, don't feel guilty for not having taught them certain things on the financial level. It can start now and it will make all the difference. Yeah, exactly. I really believe in creating generational wealth.
That's a topic that's so close to my heart.
Yeah, you know what I mean? I feel good to know that I was the one, if you will. You know what I mean?
It's a beautiful
I
thing.
have to be the one, like we were saying.
Yeah, and you took on that responsibility, and it's no easy task.
And if you're in your 30s, it's not too late at all. Not even in your 40s.
She's a prime example, right?
Yeah.
You're a prime example of that.
No, it isn't.
And because even your family members won't even understand it sometimes. And it's like, I'm doing this for all of us. And a lot of the times in that journey, like you will feel misunderstood. But I think that, and I was talking about this the other day, unfortunately, and fortunately, we are visual beings. We only believe things when we see them. Like my mom, like a lot of the time, she wouldn't understand a lot of the things, a lot of my behaviors, a lot of my choices and my decisions. But she would understand it when she would see the results.
Exactly.
And now that she sees all the results, now she's like super supportive of it and she gets it. But because we see it.
You're right, because I would consider you an entrepreneur as well. That's why we have so much mutual respect. And correct me if I'm wrong, entrepreneurship equals creation. Yeah. And a lot of times the creation is coming from nothing initially. So a lot of people are not going, because they're not in our brain, they're not in our vision, and they're not part of the project, so to speak, they don't understand where it's going until it is arrived. Yes. And I totally relate to that.
Yeah.
I think that one of the reasons that I was able to start experiencing financial independence in my own life was because I completely diverted from the traditional behaviors that I was used to. So going back to what we were saying about how I did the college thing.
Yeah.
I did the getting a degree thing. And I arrived at a cubicle and I felt like my future was being completely like there was a lid on it and there was suffocation under that lid. I was suffocated. Oh my God. I was very suffocated because I'm like, how am I going to give my mom, who is my primary person I take care of, how am I going to elevate her life when all I can do, it's just arithmetic. There's a certain biweekly paycheck. You have to pay all your expenses. And when there's only so much left, how can you really upgrade and elevate?
It's a rat race.
Exactly. Yes.
It's set up for
it's the revolving door effect.
Exactly.
And so I think that outside of just generally practicing everything I preach, everything I've learned about money and personal finance and wealth and first generational wealth, building that wealth, I believe that choosing a path that not everyone understands, because let me just speak on this too, my general cultural society is very focused. And I'm sure you know this because it's stereotypical in a way too.
And I want to talk a little bit about that, actually.
Yes, okay.
Talk a little bit about that.
So shout out to my fellow Korean Americans. They are the MDs, the JDs. They're doing these very highly respected professions that are also very well defined.
Absolutely.
Respected as well. That's pretty big. And I have zero qualms of that. I think that's wonderful. But going back to what we were speaking about, people don't get it sometimes, right? Actually, in my company, I think I'm one of the only Asian American females of Korean background.
Wow.
Yeah, it's interesting. I wonder what it's going to look like as the Gen Z starts coming through.
Yeah.
Who knows?
They're very open-minded, I feel. And I feel like they're like the new healers of the world. I always say that millennials are trying to pick up the pieces from the prior generations.
Sure.
They did. Granted, I feel like every generation leaves us with something positive. I feel like the generation before us did show us hard work.
Yeah, and traditions.
And tradition. But now we're learning how to do things not in such a stressful environment, in a smarter way. Then I feel like the newer generation is also coming in healed and with higher expectations too.
Sure.
As well.
That was well said. I agree. I'm still learning about them.
Yeah. And they got it a little bit easier. You guys have the remote work life now.
Yeah. You're right. There's a pretty stark differences between generations.
Yeah.
I actually love learning about it too.
Of course, because I feel like each one leaves us with something.
For sure.
So I want to talk about ownership versus consumption.
Oh my gosh. Yes. Yes. Such a good topic. I just want to applaud you. You're such a good host. Such a good host.
Yeah, thank you.
This is definitely shaped by our upbringing, I would say.
Yeah.
I have met people who come from without, just like the same as me, but veer into materialism, if you will, as their form of therapy. Our society,
from a validation,
talk about retail therapy and things like it's like a kind of a status quo. And I think if you have your baseline set up, and everything's interconnecting right now in this whole episode, right? Where if you have a structural approach, that's going to take care of itself. Which means even if you do like to buy certain things and you're very consistent about being a consumer in certain areas, I can fully admit that I buy a lot of different things, especially right now for my new home. But if my underlying financial game plan is still happening, I can still win.
So that concept of looking or spending more money is going to make you more money. How true is that?
Yeah. So actually, when I talk to people about investing, I literally say to them, hey, you are the consumer from whom the investments are making a return, right? Because we are adding to the greatest amount of revenue. So if you right now, how many things that we consume today already, right? Yeah. I can think of 10 different corporations that I'm consuming from right now as we sit here.
Oh, yeah.
So if we're consuming, we should also be partaking. So yeah, that's what I would say about that part. And then as far as ownership, I also want to say we're big on home ownership as well. We believe that is a big part of building wealth. Not the only, I do want to say, right? Because some people are only exclusive to things like real estate. And I'm on that game plan as well.
And why is that so important? To owning assets like investments, businesses, property?
I like to say that it's like what I like to talk to a lot of people about. It's all about return on your time, right? Return on investment, right? When we, for example, when we rent, because I grew up in a building, in an apartment, just like most of us New York City people, right? Exactly. Yeah. When you rent, that money literally in a 30-day cycle is just in and out, right? In and out, in and out, in and out. There's no buildup. When you leave, they don't return back. Maybe they give you back a deposit.
I always say it just goes in the garbage.
It's just literally, you paid for your last 30 days. That's it. Ownership means, just in a general broad context, that your money has a return. When you're paying towards a mortgage, for instance, you're building equity. And that equity is a return on your investment. And of course, appreciation on all that good stuff. So I really like, and for some people listening, this might be just totally a given. Yeah. But for so many others, it becomes a more and more distant reality. Like, we all know that owning is better, but then what are we doing to make that become our reality?
Oh,
that's
so
what,
good.
that's where my passion lies.
Yes. What do you think? What are the reasons why you think some of us hold back on that reality?
So I think I have this just came to me. I think this is a good anecdotal example I can give. So I grew up without a car. Like, I remember when I was little, we got into a car accident as a family. This was when my family was all together. My parents had separated soon thereafter. But I remember we got into an accident and we never got a car after that. It was like one of those, I can't explain it because I was so young.
Like a traumatic experience?
No, I think it was just like a total loss. And then just my parents didn't know how to recover from that situation. So we grew up without a car ever since that point in time. So now, as someone who grew up without a car, I did not even try to get a driver's license until my mid-20s. Now, for some New Yorkers, that might be still early.
No, let me tell you. Are you serious? Let me tell you
something.
We
didn't even talk about this.
Let me tell you guys something about Grace and I. We have so many things in common, up to the point that we literally sit during the week sometimes
yes.
in restaurants
or
for
cafes
hours long on our laptop, just busy working.
3-4 hours minimum.
And it goes all the way down to this.
This? Okay, see, you got to tell me about this.
I got my license when I was 25 years old.
So I ended up getting my license at 26. I took a very long time because I had a whole journey. That's a whole other story. It took me a very long time to pass that road test, to be honest.
3 times.
Me too. What the heck? Me too. I think I failed twice, actually. I think I passed on the 3rd try. You passed on your 4th try, possibly. Okay.
Yeah.
So when I finally freaking conquered that license, it was one of the biggest feats, I swear, I accomplished in my life. Seriously. It felt that way, at least.
Did you, by the way, did your mom have a license?
No, exactly. No. I mean, she did on paper, but she never drove.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So going back to the example, I want to state that once I became a driver, I swear to you, I felt like I missed out on life for at least 8 years. You know what I'm saying? And so why am I bringing that up is sometimes what we have normalized in our lives, like, I normalized not having a car. I hated not having a car in my family. It was very embarrassing. Going back to what I was saying earlier about nobody in my community of, not necessarily where I was living, because I lived around a lot of diverse people, but I'm talking about primarily my parents' society, the Korean society. Nobody did not have a car. Did I say that right? Yeah. Everyone had at least a working vehicle, at least one. So it was very embarrassing, but at the same time, I normalized in my own little world, in my head,
because it's also,
that a car is very difficult to have, that I'm like, it's a remote reality for me. Once I got it, I'm like, why did I waste all those years not doing this?
I felt like,
oh my gosh. Yeah, and we were only 25, 26.
I swear, I told my mother, I'm like, why didn't I get my license years ago? Do you know the nightmares I would have saved myself from had I done that? But we have to remember not to be so hard on ourselves, because when that's not something that's so normalized, especially like with my mother. Like, my mother didn't have a license. Like, very few women in my family had driver's license. It was mostly my dad and the men who were cab drivers, which is the stereotypical thing, Latinos and Dominicans. But same as you, I felt so accomplished. And I think that the reason why I felt so accomplished is not so much that I finally passed the driver's license, but that I finally accomplished something that was normalized for so long.
Exactly.
And I didn't have anyone giving me that guidance and telling me like, hey, you need to get your license. I was just noticing like, why is our life so difficult? I remember my mother and I having to struggle taking the bus and public transit on the train, like when cold, wet, and super terrible weather. Like, sure, we're New Yorkers.
And it takes forever.
We take the train and the bus on any type of weather. But I remember there was one time it was like a blizzard and it was super cold. And I'm like, why are we going through this?
I know. Oh my God.
And I think that was the motivation for me to kind of just get my license and break that.
Yeah, and going back to why we brought up this example is that applies a lot to our financial lives too. We get used to a certain pattern and we don't look up enough times to be like, oh, okay, I think I'm not getting to where I ultimately thought I will be getting to. What do I need to know and what do I need to implement into my ordinary daily and monthly routine to make everything work favorably?
To make that change.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that's, professionally speaking, that's a big part of the work that I do is I'm almost like injecting a new way of thinking and a new way of looking at things. In a certain manner of speaking, I would say it's an intervention of sorts.
Yeah. Some common beliefs that you think were passed on from our parents as far as like our money choices.
Yeah. I think one of the things I've always, how more is caught than taught. So a lot of us, we're all children of parents and we adopt their attitude and their sort of responses to different things that take place. And I will say that one of those things for me is a scarcity, I don't want to say mindset, but just overall scarcity in general, just having that fear or anxiety about scarcity. You know what I'm saying? So I think part of why I went down the paths that I have chosen is I work so hard to alleviate my own anxiety about this scarcity that I grew up with.
Yes.
And that's why I hustled so hard to change this. But I will say that it has paid off. You get what I'm saying?
Yes.
And I think anyone else who can relate to this, that you did sacrifice a lot and sometimes you question, why am I going so hard or making all these trade-offs? I'm telling you, as someone here, sometimes we hear from other experts that it's like a response to trauma and that it's like a
survival response.
Workaholism or something like this.
It's a survival response from what I've learned through the therapists that have said here.
Exactly. I've heard those episodes.
Yeah. So seeing your parents constantly on this survival mode, on this constant chase for the money. And then that kind of trickles on into our adulthood.
And that's like one type of way that someone might be dealing with that. I think it was definitely specifically wanting to socioeconomically advance myself. So I want to treat it as a good thing.
I see it that way because hyper-independency is the word that we would call what you and I are.
Yes.
But at the same time, it's like you said, it also is a way to make a difference and to break a cycle into what we were normally taught.
I agree.
And, so I look at it as and I'm learning to do that a lot. I see the negatives, changing the negatives into a positive and seeing that as not necessarily a trauma response, but a positive in my life and the changes in my life.
Definitely.
So if someone listening right now feels like they've made every financial mistake possible, is it too late to change their money story?
So long as we're alive, it's not too late. You get what I'm saying?
That.
So long as we're alive.
Hope, faith.
Yes.
Putting in the work.
And then when you say mistake, though, can you elaborate? What kind of mistakes should I speak on?
So maybe they're drowning in debt.
Okay.
That scenario where you're starting from zero. Is it really too late to start your money story?
When it comes to debt, it doesn't even matter how long it took you. It doesn't matter how much it is. We just have to, from the moment you decide that's no longer the identity you want to keep, right? We're going to make sure that you don't keep paying for your past. We have to, like you said, end the cycle and we're going to start paying into the future.
Heal from it. Right?
Yes, exactly. As long as, because I will admit, some people do have like a cyclical nature with this, right?
Yeah.
They'll go into a whole season of debt and then climb out of it, but then crawl back into it. As long as we can start to, like you say, heal from what it is that caused that to begin with, because maybe sometimes it is emotionally based as opposed to just an economic circumstance.
Because it's good that there's good debt and bad debt.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No, 100%. Yeah, that's very well mentioned. But we're talking about like consumer debt. Speaking of consumerism earlier, consumer debt, I am seeing interest rates as high as 30% now.
That's crazy.
I know. It is.
It's interest rates.
Yeah, it's like I like buying things on sale. I like to explain to my clients that I like buying things on discount. But when you are charging something like you already paying full price times like 3, then times like you've negated whatever you were trying to be discounted for. Debt is you're paying for your past, right?
Yes.
Whereas we're really trying to move everything forward, shift everything forward. So there has to be a period of transition where we need to address the past, but in a way that doesn't completely prevent you from moving forward either. It's got to be a good balance. I don't believe that you have to only work off your debt and then forget about everything else for the time being. There is a way to address debt, but also build a future. And I like for people to all know that when it comes to saving and investing, you have to have a 3-part strategy. One is short-term, aka emergencies, immediate turnaround of purchases, things that you really have to, like if you happen to pay for your child's school, that's a pretty short-term expense, right? Like it's coming up right away, like in a few months, versus a midterm is more for life milestones, again, major purchases, down payments, etc. And then there's the long term, which is really our primary opportunity to build wealth. Because the longer you stay invested, the more money you make. So
the earlier you start.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Because we have, like I like to say, if we live 200 years and you're 40 right now, you still have a good number of decades to accomplish what you want to accomplish. But we don't. We only have a certain number of decades, Lord willing. So we want to capture every possible year that we have. But it's okay if you hadn't done that yet, because you still have, what are we doing to optimize the time we have from here on?
We did it. We weren't born into wealth.
Exactly.
I didn't start at 0. I didn't start till I was 30.
Yeah.
Like really understanding the concept of making correct financial choices and all of that. But so what are the small habits that people today can start doing that can drastically change their financial future?
So I say that it's like, Ysaura, if I were talking to you, I would love to ask you, what does your future dreams and goals, what are they worth? What trade-off or minor discomfort today is worth the price of your future dream life, let's just say, right?
That's good.
Or what does your family deserve from the money that you make? And so if we put it like in those words, do they deserve 10% of our income, 15, 20, 20? I like for people to always start with minimum 10% of their income. So it's like this. If we're so used to paying everyone else, because we're all responsible working adults, right? So we're earning income, and that income is accounted in a lot of different ways, right? We're paying everyone else, but our future, which in and of itself is something we're building towards, or we like to say we're working towards, what is that getting, right? That almost has to be a bill too. But that's a bill that returns back to you. Like you're the payor, but you're also the payee, if I said that correctly, right?
Yes.
What is that worth? You get to set that bill. So is it worth minimum 10%? Can we stretch it to 15% eventually? Can we stretch it to 25%? Obviously, the more the better, but realistically speaking, starting at about 10% of one's income is a very good habit, like you said, to start with.
As long as you start, right? And you're consistent with it. What does a healthy relationship with money look like?
Yeah, it's so funny because we just recently put out like a little poll about our relationship. Speaking of the Valentine's Day that we just had recently, what's your relationship status with money? Everything
oh, yeah,
from
that's right. You did that event.
it's complicated to we're currently on a pause. Whatever like the relationship status terminology that we have. I think understanding that money gives you options for even things that you don't anticipate, such as emergencies. Unfortunately, people getting divorced, which is a huge impact on your finances.
Oh, yes. That's a whole another podcast, by the way.
Yes. Anticipating maybe medical needs or not anticipating medical, meaning that it can spring up on you that you never planned. So it's not about just what in front of you and what your current financial status looks like, but also understanding that life, it's all about understanding life as
preparing for the unforeseeable.
Exactly.
Life happens.
You know what I'm saying? And you have to, when you have money available to you, you have the ability to pivot. You have the ability to make important decisions faster. You don't have to wait to say, oh, I need another 2 years before I can be ready for that. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's to me is the freedom. Yeah. That to me is the appeal.
And also the opportunities that come knocking on your door.
Exactly. If you have some sort of a
money
major...
loves speed, like that saying. Money loves speed. And if you don't have it and there's an opportunity that comes your way...
Exactly. You can't say, oh, let's talk about this again in 36 months. You can't, you got to be able to seize the moment.
Right.
So having that available to oneself is going to spell out a lot of different results and outcomes that you'll probably look back one day and say, I am so glad that I had been prepared for something that I didn't even know I should be prepared for.
Which a lot of us aren't. I was reading an article the other day that says the average American doesn't have savings of $5,000 in their bank account.
Yes, exactly. And there's another statistic speaking about retirement accounts and how the average person has less than $25,000 in their in retirement assets.
That's another thing. I feel like now it's harder on us. Back in the day, they had these pensions, they had all these.
Yeah, they had some constructs, but you're right. Those constructs are mostly obsolete. So we have to have our own construct.
Right. Grace, thank you so much for coming on the show, sharing your wisdom and your story and opening up Hustle Edition.
Thank you so much for having me. It was an honor.
Is there anything you want to share with the audience?
They can follow me on Instagram at Grace June Kim. That's actually my full name. I would be so happy to connect with you.
This is Love Heal Hustle. I'm your host, Ysaura. I'll see you guys on the next episode. That wasn't just a conversation. That was a shift. So here's your next step. Subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss out on the next episode. Because what we're doing this season is breaking cycles and building something that outlives us. Love deeper, heal for real, hustle with purpose. See you on the next episode.